Good morning. My name is Eva Llorens Simón. I'm a researcher and lecturer at the University of Alicante, particularly at the Department of English Studies and the University Institute of Applied Modern Languages. And my presentation today is Metaphors and Emotions in Women's Health Discourse, Unmasking Stereotypes Towards Menstruation. This is the outline for my presentation with a very brief introduction, some information on the goals, both for the project this study is integrated into and for the specific study we have developed. And it also contains the hypothetical statement considered as a starting point and the specific details on the methodology we followed, considering the identification of key nouns and adjectives and then the analysis of contexts to identify specific connotations, figurative language, and direct references to emotions, with some findings related to the prototypical women's health discourse and the cultural perceptions and gender-sensitive concepts we can associate to them. Some of the aspects to be considered in terms of relevance of gender concepts are these: with authority and power normally attributed to scientific discourse, the acceptance of unique health needs in women, and the gender as a factor of inequity. As anticipated before, this research is integrated into a research project, DigiTender, and therefore we're considering both general goals for the project and specific objectives for the study. And particularly for the project, we've considered the need for analyzing already existing terminology to create a centralized repository of gender-sensitive terminology. The specific objectives for this study are the corpus analysis of texts on menstruation, the identification and quantification of recurring elements to detect potential biases and gender-sensitive aspects, and the exploration of prototypical women's health discourse to know the way these elements contribute to sociocultural perceptions and biases towards menstruation. The initial hypothetical statement is very clear. Since we think that the use of figurative language and emotional references in women's health discourse has an impact on sociocultural perceptions and biases, and therefore in women's identities and experiences. As mentioned before, corpus analysis is the method we followed for our study, and to do that we've compiled a small corpus from a medical publication integrating texts on menstruation, and the representative character of this corpus is defined with the specialized sense it has. And what we have identified and located there is the most recurring nouns and adjectives and their contexts to identify connotations and direct references to emotions, as well as their figurative meaning. As for the corpus data, along with its specialized character and its size, I could mention its expository sense and its publication in a quite recent book, along with a multi-authored condition as well. And as you can see, it is a corpus ad hoc, which means we have specially compiled it for the purpose of this research. Concerning the results for the research, as you can see in this collection of recurring nouns, many of them, such as, inconvenience, silence, other, dirt, invisibility, many of them are negative. In fact, in a total frequency of 1,418 occurrences, 438 are negative, which is more than 30% of the total occurrence. And additionally, if we analyze the specific context surrounding them, for example, image, contact, size, color, perception, are also negative if we interpret the global meaning. In fact, 301 extra occurrences are therefore negative and adverse in meaning. Here you can find an example for a frequent context. In this case, for one of the recurring nouns, for other, and some of the words and expressions surrounding it are, for example, disgusting or corruption or even bad. So we can confirm again that the negative polarity is present. Now, direct references to emotions have been identified in the corpus, and shockingly enough, most of them are negative, with the only exception of 3 occurrences related to happiness or joy. The rest of them are all negative, which is again quite significant. This is visible and evidenced in the following graph, where you can see that when searching for basic emotions as direct references in our corpus, more than 85% are negative, whereas only towards 15% are positive, which is quite significant considering the common association with emotions and menstruation. Here you can find some common imagery and some examples of figurative senses, with menstruation being identified as a source of isolation, taboo, disorder, social disease, handicap, dirt, impurity, repugnance, malignant fluids. So you can see that all the connotations are negative except the menstruation concept as the origin of life. So as you can see, some of the images we mentioned are very adverse. For example, menstruation is embarrassing, it means silence, imbalance, it's dark, it's a limitation, blood contact is repugnant, it's a disease transmission, and especially with emotions, we can see that polarity is really negative, with fear, sadness, and disgust representing the most recurring emotions. With this corpus analysis, we can see that the use of metaphors and the negative connotations in basic emotions entail gendered stereotypes and images that have impacted the specialized terminology. So this is the reason why a gender-sensitive and respectful approach is convenient. Definitely, we can confirm that the use of figurative language and the preponderance of negative emotions have an influence and perpetuate stereotypes towards women and their experiences. So we think that gendered concepts should be replaced with more equitable alternatives to promote gender-sensitive approaches in terminology. Please find below the research references. Thank you so much for your attention, and my gratitude also goes to the organizing committee for preparing and planning this conference.